Hi guys, welcome to The Bay Business. The new name of this channel is The Bay Business, and it's yeah, I decided to change it from The Bay Business Guru because I guess I want to be more involved in the channel now, and I just want to make videos. Uh, so I'm making this video series on 7 habits of highly effective people. There's lots of other videos on this on YouTube, and they explain the book in detail. Well, not enough detail, I think. It's more like they try and cover every single habit in one video, and I think it won't sit in your brain if someone does that. So my purpose here is to try my best to explain these 7 habits to you in the best way that I can, and hopefully, if I do it one habit at a time per video, it'll sit much more easily. And I really recommend you do read the book yourself, because there's no way that you can learn this material from a video in the same way that you learn from reading it yourself. Recently, I've been trying to be a more productive person, and just sort of read these books and see where I can get to. I graduated from university already, and at university I did try and work on these self-help books, and I wasn't usually successful, I'll be honest. A lot of it was because planning your days is something that a lot of these books recommend, and I had trouble following an hour-to-hour plan. I'd get distracted. Maybe I'd procrastinate, or it's just you can't really account for everything when you're making an hourly plan. So now, once again, I've gone back to these books now that I'm going to start a business in the following few months, soon as COVID gets better and we should be open. So now that I'm starting a business, I want to get back to trying to improve myself and try some self-help. Try reading some self-help material, so that when I start the business, I can be the very best version of myself that the business needs me to be. And yeah, that's really my story, I guess. That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm making these videos. I'm not someone who is some huge successful person who I can't really say that I've read this. I can't really say that this book has led me to some huge success, or it'll completely change your life, because it hasn't done that for me yet. It is slowly helping me build up it is slowly helping me be a more productive person, and I am writing down I have a diary now, like the things that I have to do every day, and I'm ticking them off, and it's very helping me focus, and I can keep track of all these hundreds of things I have to do now in order to start this new business. So yeah, I'll just talk about habit 3. If you're watching till the end, maybe it'll help you. And habit 3 is it's more about management, and it's like the real core, I think, that all these self-help books talk about, all these videos talk about. And that's like, how do you plan your day? How do you follow your plan? How do you not procrastinate? How do you be productive? How do you actually achieve the results? Because it's all good talking about the theory, about how you're gonna be so motivated, what motivates you, and thinking about the reasons why you do the things you do and the results you want. But then at the end of the day, you do have to achieve those results. So how do you do the nitty-gritty and get into it? And habit 3 is where Stephen Covey, the writer of this book, 7 Habits, he tries to give he tries to give you a different understanding of what time management is, and what scheduling your day means. And he says that it's more about personal management, and that instead of trying to look at everything in black and white, you look at your priorities first and just manage your time around them. For some people, it's probably easier to follow an hourly plan, and they love to follow a sort of rigid plan. It probably makes them feel secure, like they're really achieving something. And for others, they like to do things more of like, they like to live life freely, and they don't like to feel like they're stuck and they have to achieve this plan, otherwise they'll feel bad. So basically, just throw any sort of time management out the window, and like pretty much what I was doing, which is like, I'll just sort of decide on the day what I need to do, and I'll do what I feel at the time I have to do, and I'll hopefully get through it, which does work, but it doesn't work all the time. It probably works around, if you're good at it, 70-80% of the time. But as the demands on you increase, you'll find that you start sort of faltering in some areas of your life, because you're unable to manage everything effectively, and you forget things, you forget appointments. How do you use a system which doesn't let you be bored of that system so that you throw it away, and at the same time the system should be effective and it should get you to the results you want. And for that, Stephen Covey, he uses this quadrant of the four activities you have to do. I'll probably put it here somewhere so you can see. So what it is that there's things that are urgent and important. There's things that are urgent and unimportant. Then there's tasks which are not urgent but important, and then not urgent and not important. And these are four quadrants. So a lot of us in our workplace, in our offices, in our student life, we focus on what's urgent and what's important. Probably assignments that are immediately due the next day. Probably just things we've been putting off that have now become urgent and really important for us to do. And this leaves us little time for the other three quadrants. So we get tired, we go home, we say, okay, we want to relax. Let me do something that'll take my mind off this stressful lifestyle. And you end up watching TV, playing some video games, which is fine, but then you ignore the other quadrants, right? You ignore quadrant 2 and 3. And you just focus 90% of your time in quadrant 1. So then you say, okay, and if you're someone who's a procrastinator, what you'll do is spend most of your time in quadrant 3 and 4. So stuff which isn't even important but urgent. It could be something like, oh, I have to take this role on. It's really urgent. I take this new role on for my society, or for my friends. I have to go out with them tomorrow, or something like that, which is kind of urgent because you don't have much time to think about it. But it's not really as important as the rest of the things in these quadrants. And someone who procrastinates frequently gets themselves in a situation where they make things urgent that aren't even important. And this way they avoid working at all, and they leave everything to the last minute, and then, oh, this is so important, it's so urgent, I have to submit this assignment tomorrow, I've been ignoring it, and then they're just stuck in quadrant 1 again. The point is that you want to stay in quadrant 2, right? You want to stick to stuff that's important but not necessarily urgent. And let me give you something to think about. It's basically what Stephen Covey says, which is that think about one thing in your life, one thing that if you did more often, if you did maybe on a daily basis, you would experience a great benefit for it in the future, right? Anything it could be. For me, that might be something like exercise, right? So if I exercise daily, I know that eventually I'll really appreciate it myself for doing it. And that's why I do try and exercise daily now, which I wasn't doing before. So think about something in your life that if you did on a daily basis, little by little, it would have a great impact. And I guarantee you that no matter what it is, it will be in quadrant 2. It will be something that's not urgent, which is why you're not doing it in the first place on a daily basis. Because if it was urgent, you would be doing it every day. But it is really important. And as you work on the things in quadrant 2, which are important but not urgent, you'll find that you have less to do in quadrant 1. So for example, if you did an assignment that was due 3 weeks later, it's not urgent but it is important, then you'll find it doesn't end up in quadrant 1, it doesn't end up in important and urgent. So this is the whole sort of trick of how you get your life in order. You work in quadrant 2 and you try and get yourself in quadrant 2. So how do you do that? So the way I've been doing it, for example, in my business that I want to start, I've been working on the things that I know will be urgent soon, but are important. They aren't urgent at the moment, but they are important for me to do. I will eventually have to do them, and I'm trying to get them all sorted out as soon as I can, so that I'm ready to get going and start the business. And it does mean that you have to think about a lot of things, and you have to think about the future, and you have to even imagine, 1 week, 2 weeks from now, what do I want to have achieved that I haven't done yet, right? And then plan from there backwards. There's a lot of points in the book, and I'm not mentioning everything obviously because not everything in there sort of sits with me, but although most of it does, I think a lot of it, the book does give you a different perspective on personal management. So the way to move into quadrant 2 then is to recognize that these 4 quadrants exist first of all, and that you want to move into quadrant 2, and then to give less time to the things that are urgent but not important. Don't take on extra roles in your life. Don't take on extra responsibilities if you're struggling to already deal with the things that you have. Say no. Once you learn to say no to unimportant things, you get to say yes to important things. And like I hinted at before, make a weekly plan. And it doesn't have to be a strict weekly plan. I make a really loose weekly plan. I'll just sit down on a Friday and I'll plan out from Saturday to next Friday what I'm going to do. And it'll just be like a list of tasks. That's it. And I'll think about carefully next week, what do I want to have achieved that I haven't done this week. I'll look at my weekly plan for last week. Maybe there's a few things I haven't done, and I'll transfer them over to next week. And this has been helping me. I can't say I'm some huge successful guy because of this. I've been doing it for the last 10 years. I've only been doing it for the last few weeks, but it has helped me pick up things and remember to do things that I would normally forget. So finally, after you've managed to get down the weekly plan and you're working on this technique, you have a little diary that you use, then what I'd say is, then the other thing is effectively dealing with people. And this is part of putting first things first, because people are in your life and they're in everyone's life, and a lot of the time you spend with people. And you can't think of people. A big mistake that a lot of managers make is they give their staff members a time slot that they'll spend with them, and they think that they can deal with people efficiently, right? But Stephen Covey really points out very accurately that you can only deal with people effectively, and you can't really tell how long it'll take you to deal with someone and their problems. If, say, for example, you give your son, I don't have a son, but I don't know, give your son half an hour and you try and say, okay, son, let's talk through your issues at school. And at the end of the half hour, you see that you've only just begun to talk about these issues, and now you have a meeting scheduled. Now, when you leave him and you go for the meeting and you don't talk to him for another, 2 days about this issue, he'll probably feel even more uncomfortable. He'll feel like that he'll feel unsatisfied with the time you spent with him. And you wouldn't have effectively dealt with his issues. So, when you deal with people, think of effectiveness. And don't think about time and efficiency. And relationships is probably a big priority in your life. So, make relationships something that you spread your time around, that you manage your time around, instead of slotting them into an hour slot and dealing with everything in your life as black and white, as if everything is equally as important. Basically, this is my advice. This is what I'm doing right now. I think it's helping out. I feel like I'm following a plan. I feel like I have a direction. Once you deal with people, you get to learn to delegate your tasks. So you aren't doing everything yourself. With me in business, I feel like I'm being a little bit overwhelmed with all the things I have to do. So I'm trying to delegate tasks to other people, to maybe get some employees and get them to do a few things, because doing everything myself leaves me no time, no room for anything like this, like YouTube, because this is something that's not urgent. I don't have to make videos, but it is important because I think that this will pay off in the long run. Yet I don't have to do it immediately, right? I could be spending the time I'm spending on making this video, I could be spending that in quadrant 3. I could be wasting my time, or I could be spending in quadrant 4, which is basically just having fun, or I could be spending in quadrant 1, which is just sort of focusing on what's immediately important. So I'm gonna keep making videos, give you updates on my progress, and as I get better and better at this, and tell you what works for me basically and what doesn't. That's habit 3 done. I'll read habit 4, 5 and 6 and make a video on that and tell you what I think. And if you have any requests, maybe you want to ask me how I'm planning my week, how I'm planning my day, maybe you want to see what sort of diary I'm keeping, maybe you want to discuss anything, maybe you have some advice for me, because I'm just starting out with this sort of time management process, then just leave that in the comments and we can go from there. Okay, thanks for watching my video. If you watched till the end, I hope I didn't bore you, and I'll see you next week.